there for a few years, Colin. So,
yeah,
you know.
And
11 years.
the way that the young lad talked, there is a huge weight of expectancy on the Dublin players. Like, they're nervous, very, very nervous. Yeah. Nobody expects Mayo to do much. Like, the reality is that the vast majority of people going in here today, and a lot of the Mayo people, will be just happy if Mayo put up a good show. Dublin, there's nothing but win, and this weight of expectation can be very demanding on them, because none of these players, apart from J.O., have an All-Ireland, and you know, they're still striving. They're not the finished article by any means.
No, they're not. Well, this is the Mayo team, and a great rousing welcome from their supporters who have been here at Croke Park quite early today, in actual fact, because obviously they came in early to see the two previous matches involving two Connacht teams. Leitrim involved in the last one, Roscommon in the minor match earlier on. So they came here in their thousands, and as I said, have been here since very early on today to support their team. Team pictures for the papers for tomorrow. The other thing, Joe Brolly, that they will want to do, Mayo, I mean, is, you know, put a little bit of, you know, until they win in All-Ireland, because I've had a couple of bad experiences in All-Ireland over the years, and the last one again was another one of those. Yeah. Put that behind them.
The Mayo team have gone down to Hill 16.
I see that actually, yeah, the Mayo team down,
a very good reception.
This could be interesting in a few minutes' time now when the Dubs come out.
What Mayo need to do here is, because you know that Dublin will come out at this at 100 miles an hour.
Being welcomed by some of the Dub supporters on the hill.
Oh yeah, and this will be...
That's a foolish thing to do. Like that sort of...
It's an empty gesture.
Yeah, making out as if they are so confident they can go to whichever side. They'd be better off just come up and do their talking once the match starts.
It's a bit like the time Willie Anderson's Ireland went up and stood in front of the All Blacks during the haka and stood right into their faces, and the All Blacks beat them by about 57 points thereafter.
Well, what's going to happen?
These things can be...
what's going to happen now is the Dubs are going to come out, they're going to charge down to Hill 16, and you're going to have a lot of incident.
I think Mickey's calling them away. I think he's calling them out of there.
Yeah. This is actually now, for me, this is deflecting from their own. You should be focused at this stage, not to get involved in stuff like this.
See, the thing that Mayo need to do in this match in the first 20 minutes is hold the tail of the tiger, because the Dubs are going to come out like a whirlwind, as they have in every game, and they're going to try and blow them away. And unless Mayo can hold them in those first 15 or 20 minutes, it could turn into a rout. On the other hand, if they do hold them, Dublin will become nervous, and the game could get very interesting indeed, because Mayo are very good at winning possession and nearly every facet of the game apart from scoring.
Yes, and there's no doubt about that. Mayo need to get over the first 20 minutes without conceding a goal. Yeah. That's very important to them. And the other thing they need to do is to be going in half time, definitely not more than 2 or 3 points behind. Yeah. If they're not close at half time, then they're going to struggle big time the second half.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, gentlemen, to see what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes when Dublin run out. Will Dublin go down to the same end? Will they go down to the hill?
There's no doubt about that. And okay, people will say, looking at television, Dubs don't own Croke Park, so any team should be entitled to go down. But why stir up a racket before the game? You know, the time to do the talking is when the referee throws in the ball, and there's no point in having unnecessary confrontation before the game starts.
Except, I suppose, Joe, it adds a little bit of drama to the whole thing, doesn't it?
Which is an amazing statement coming from O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I go back to say you do your talking when the match is on.
The boxing matches that the Meath fellas had with Dublin, they didn't regard that as drama. They just regard that as normal.
Unnecessary confrontation was part and parcel of the game.
Yeah, but the thing about the Dublin, and the one thing I always admire, you know, we absolutely flaked hell out of one another over a 10-year period. We met in, I think, 5 or 6 Leinster finals in a row. But the one thing about Dublin, whether they were given or taken, when the match was over, there was never a complaint.
Yes.
Never a complaint, no matter how you beat them.
Yeah.
Listen, I think it's a sort of a futile gesture, but on the other hand, it's stirring up the crowd, it'll stir up the Dubs, and it creates the right atmosphere for a real battle, you know, and expect the first 15 minutes to be absolutely frenzied out there now, which is what we want.
The second team is normally out within 2 minutes of the first team. That's the normal procedure. Now, obviously, that time has passed, so I suspect that Dublin are looking at the situation now before they come out and see what might happen.
They have TVs in their teams.
No, there they are. Look, you see, they're waiting.
What they have done is they sent for Boutros Ghali or Kofi Annan, or asked Bertie Ahern to go down there and see would he be able to move the loud players from that area before there's a racket. But it's coming soon.
Yeah, it is.
No, they're going to have to hold. This is like the start of the heavyweight boxing championship, you know, where they're eyeing each other, and the first man to look down, the first man to flinch loses the psychological advantage, you know.
There's the OK Corral here, and Wyatt Earp is on his way out now in a second.
Or it's like what do you call it, the World Wrestling Federation stuff, you know, where they're pretending to be beating each other up in the dressing room.
That's right, I'll rip your head off.
It mightn't be pretend now.
Well, it's fun anyway, you know, it's fun, and it'll sort of stir up the hornet's nest.
I think this is anybody who's wondering what's going on at home now will be enjoying the next 3 or 4 minutes, because it's going to be certainly very interesting.
Well, Dublin are being announced anyway by the stadium announcer, so here they do come. Brian Cullen leads them out.
Either it'll be a psychological masterstroke for Mickey Moran and John Morrison, or it'll backfire spectacularly. So we wait with interest to see how it all goes.
We're going to have obviously another 30 seconds to wait, because the first thing they have to do is get on the bench, have their photographs taken for this game, and then we're going to wait and see where they go.
Yeah, but behind all the sort of psychology of football, you know, people can dress up a lot of these things, and you should do this and should that. Like, it still comes down to, have you the ability and the mental strength to keep going when things are tough during the game? And, you know,
there they go.
We're going to see now.
On your boys,
they're probably going to link arms and go down is the usual thing here.
A good, big, long fist fight now.
But they look like the Roman army on the march at the moment, so you know.
That's
so
right. That's right. They're coming down to the hill. Look at this. It's great.
And Kieran Whelan have to be.
Kieran Whelan wants to get moving up, as they get going at them.
Look at them. By God, I tell you, this is going to be a good contest.
I think this.
We may hold on to our hats.
The contest may start in the next couple of minutes from the looks of things at the moment. Now, will Mayo retreat? Because that would now be the thing to do for me. You haven't made your point. Just
no, I don't think they can give it up now.
They're not doing
give
that.
It up now. Well, there you are. If they want to play it being silly buggers, that's what they're going to do.
Well, it's certainly going to liven up the Dublin support, and it means that they'll be getting even more noise behind them than usual. But again, like, you know, good players go out and they hear nothing, see nothing. Yeah. It's a field, and could play this game somewhere and there'll be nobody at it, and, you know, the top players will still be the top players, because they'll be able to put all the influences before the game, all the crowd, everything out of the system, and just get on with playing. Yeah. And that's why quality players like Alan Brogan and you know, on Conor Mortimer and Brian Cullen and all these fellas, they'll still be the good players.
Oh, and it's starting. That's John Morrison, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah,
in the middle of that there.
John Pillar's just giving him a good shoulder charge.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of afraid to criticise Mickey Moran anymore, you know. I'm worried he'll come up to the box after the game.
Word with Paul Caffrey. It'd been a tough week for Paul Caffrey, of course. Colm, his nephew, died suddenly during the week, which obviously is. And John Mahan in the crowd there. John has a smile on his face. He's obviously enjoying some of this. But
the thing is, of course,
this is getting a bit silly. Brian Talty.
It's silly, but
Brian Talty with the glasses there, former Galway player, just obviously trying to separate the Dublin lads from the Mayo lads. Brian has played against Mayo many times, so.
And Brian has had his problems with Dublin.
Of course, in the past. Mr. Mullins
and back to 1983.
Yes, so that's right.
And I see Kieran Duff there, who Kieran, a very quiet, unassuming player, never got into any trouble himself.
Much.
1983 as well.
Also, whenever Mayo fans are on this side of the pitch and the Dublin fans are on the other side of the pitch, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a way. But the first 5 minutes, what happens is you get all these frustrations out of your system in the first 5 minutes, and then the game just goes into its normal pattern. You know, whether or not it gives them a psychological edge is questionable, but I mean, it depends on their own mental strength, I suppose.
Well, Mickey is really wound up, isn't he?
Oh, Mickey's wound up, but I think that a manager would better off go over and sit on the line at this stage. You know, let the players get on with their business. And when it comes down to it, you know, we're going to see, is the Mayo forward line good enough to breach this Dublin back line? Now, the Dublin full back line have had their problems when the ball has been played in fast. Nobody has done it. Mayo are unlikely to do it today, let it in fast. But I think Conor Mortimer still can do a lot of damage.
He's well improved, isn't he? Colm as a footballer.
Paddy Russell, the referee, is out in the middle of the field there with his two linesmen. Now, obviously, he, strictly speaking, Colm, doesn't have anything to do until this game starts and throw the ball in. But again, as you said, Joe, if this was a boxing big championship fight and you're the referee, I'd be going over and say, lads, I suppose, separate now.
I suppose at this stage, if the Mayo boys flinch now and do go up to their own side, there'll be a huge roar and there'll be a sort of the sense of defeat that goes with that. So even though it's silly now that they've started into it, they must stick with it.
Well, there are two men who are entitled to be beside each other, David Heaney and Brian Cullen, who is the Dublin captain on the day. Colin Moran is the team captain, the club captain if you want to call it, but not in the starting lineup in this. So Brian has the honour of captaining the side. Handshakes are done. We have to wait and see, of course, which way they're. I presume they're not going to both play in the same direction when the match starts.
I would say that Paddy Russell would prefer now if we could get the pre-match parade started, and at least that will bring an end to the sort of hostilities that have arisen so far and let them get on with the real game.
Yeah. Oh, it's all great fun. Well, I suppose it beats having to wait for the Dublin supporters to arrive, doesn't it?
Well, that's true. It'll just give them a window of opportunity to get here from the throw-in. But anyway, it's well filled up now.
It is. Okay, let's give you the lineups at this stage as they've been selected by the two counties with all the details. Here's Gerard Canning.
Thanks very much indeed, Michael. Well, Paul Caffrey and his Dublin selectors are in the happy position of being able to name the same starting 15 as that which started the quarter-final against Westmeath. Brian Cullen is now well and truly established at centre-half back, while the midfield pairing of Kieran Whelan and Shane Ryan is highly regarded. And up front, Mayo will know all about Tomas, better known as Mossy Quinn. In their league meeting last March, he scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. Mickey Moran left a vacancy in his published team at right half forward in the event. The spot goes to Billy Joe Padden, who together with David Heaney underwent a fitness test at lunchtime. Right half Aidan Higgins will remember his last match against Dublin. He was sent off within 5 minutes of coming on, while Conor Mortimer, Mayo's scoring star, knows all about some of the Dublin backs. He played with them for DCU in this year's Sigerson Cup victory. Michael, back to you.
Gerard Canning, thank you very much indeed. Best of luck in the commentary for this one. By the way, there is an official down injured in the middle of the field. Not quite sure exactly what happened there. Obviously, during the little exchanges between the two sides earlier on, he has been treated. You can see it on the right-hand side of the field there. Somebody has, apparently he was struck by a ball in the middle of that, obviously with all the kicking around and all the confusion. Somebody got a wallop. Not sure who it is, but hopefully he is okay. So, Colin, when the match actually starts, what's going to happen?
Well, I think that Dublin certainly will come out of traps now at 100 mile an hour. I think the first 5 minutes will be very interesting, both on and off the ball. And I'd say that Paddy Russell, who's, you know, I've criticised him in the past, it wouldn't be my choice of referee for a game like this, which is going to be fairly frenzied.
He'll have his hands full now.
Yeah, the only thing I suppose, he had experience of the Dubs match above in Tyrone, and he said that he was about to abandon that game, so maybe he understands the way that they are going to work. But
he couldn't have done too much about the silliness that particular day, I suppose.
I'm going to be interested in this Dublin rotating forward line. It's not something that I would agree that much. Like a fella like Brogan scores a brilliant point, and then he's out 60 yards being the provider for maybe the next score, and they keep rotating in this circular movement. And what it means is that sometimes their best scorers are away out the field.
Yeah.
Whereas the likes of Kerry or Armagh will keep their best scorers close to the goal line. It's not something I think is in their best interest long term. It is working, so we can't complain too much about it. But it's something I'm wondering, when they go out the field, what backs are going to follow them out? Because you could end up, say, with half backs playing in the full back line as a result. Maybe that's the way that Dublin wanted, and it has caused enough disruption for them to score goals so far.
Yeah, a moment ago there we saw Paul Caffrey pointing to his head as the message is to focus now. That's what you have to do now after all this old shenanigan.
One thing that the Dublin team have had this year is an extremely strong sense of purpose and mission throughout. They've brought the zeal with them to every game. In truth, since the Longford game, they've blown everyone they've played out of the water. I mean, they've beaten them off the field. The game's been over after 20-25 minutes. Now, the difficulty is they just haven't the class forwards to take full advantage of the opportunities that they're creating. But unless Mayo can hold them in the first half and get into some sort of scoring rhythm themselves, way beyond anything they've been capable of so far, then the game could be a rout. Alternatively, if Mayo can score and stick with them, the game will be very interesting, because Dublin aren't Kerry or Armagh, you know, they don't have that sort of class to emphatically
passed away earlier this week. We will now have the national anthem sung by Elaine Canning from Sligo.